two disclaimers. First off, this is not scripted in no way, so sorry if this ends up being a train wreck. Two, I am a fully legal, certified medical cannabis patient in the state of Virginia. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Stoney Shaman's Corner. I am the Dreaming Turtle, and I will be your guide through this episode and here on out in this series. If we go more than a few episodes, we'll do this one and we'll do a couple more, and we'll see how it goes from there. This is probably, or well, almost definitely going to be the lightest of the videos because in the future, I want to get into some really heavy subject matter. In this video, I just want to kind of do an introduction and a explanation of, I want to cover three things basically. Why shaman? Why a shaman? Why am I a shaman? Or why do I choose the title of a shaman? More specifically, I am a secular neo-shaman, and that's a term that I probably just made up, or, well, I made it up. I don't know if anybody else has used that term or not, but that's the best way I can really describe it. So we're going to talk about that. I do want to touch on the issue of karma just a little bit and do an introduction to the medicine wheel. So a few face things I gotta get out of the way first. I am not recommending anybody else to choose the shamanic path. The path of the shaman is definitely not for everybody. Everybody in society and in the world serves their own roles. They have their own purposes in life. They have their own strengths and weaknesses. And this is my path. And this is also not a religious thing. The medicine wheel is, or at least from my perspective, the teachings of the medicine wheel is not a religious thing. It's a universal or a symbol that can be used universally because of what the medicine wheel represents and the lessons that the medicine wheel can teach us. We'll get more into that here in a little bit. So we're going to start off this video pretty much the same as my silly and unboxing videos, and we're going to start off with a little dab. So I pulled out the nectar collector. I've only used this thing the one time, so I figure, this is a good opportunity to use it again because, just why not? And let's get us heated up. Super torch. We're going to heat this thing with my super Hippie Butler torch. And this is also the nectar collector that I got from Hippie Butler as well. And we'll get just a little bit more heat. Just a little bit more heat. I'm going to get nice and we're going to get nice and stony off of this. So let's get it hot. All right, I think that's hot enough. Let's do it. There we go. Oh, shit, man. There we go. Oh. Oh, shit. My Bernie thing fell off. Oh yeah, and while I'm thinking about it, a couple more disclaimers. One, I might smoke cigarettes through these videos, and I do not encourage the practice of cigarette smoking, which is why I usually try to keep that out of the main parts of my videos. But in this instance, I do smoke, so I might appear smoking cigarettes because I want to be comfortable and, you know, not stumble over myself. And also, I apologize if the stuff that I talk about in these videos comes off as preachy. I definitely do not intend to come across as preachy. I don't want to tell other people what to do or how to live their lives. I'm just want to share the things that I've learned, my experience, and my philosophies. That's really what this all boils down to, is my philosophy. So we start off with that question: why the shamanic path? For me, again, I do not want to push my path onto anybody else. My role is the shaman, and most likely your role is something completely different. My role as a shaman is, or I should say, a secular neo shaman, is not a physical dispenser of medicine, but more of a philosophical counseling dispenser of medicine. Think of me more or my role as more of a psychologist, sort of, or a counselor. My specialty is actually dreams, but that's, we'll get into that. But I guess, to coin an old trope, I didn't choose the shamanic path. The shamanic path chose me, or I was born into it. You see, a shaman there's two aspects of this. One, the shaman has an incredible responsibility of knowing that they're an introvert, but also having to be an empath at the same time. Sometimes we have to look between the worlds, so to speak, to see certain things. And, we all see between the worlds. Don't get me wrong, we all see between the worlds, because the hallucinogenic part of the brain is very much the dreaming part of the brain. So that's why the dream psychology or dream counselor aspect of my personal path is so strong, because I've been walking between the worlds since before I knew what walking between the worlds is, since before I ever did a single drug or anything. So let me really start at the beginning. When I was born as an infant, I had a severe case of asthmatic bronchitis, and it was so severe that the cats mom had, she ended up having to give away, because the doctor basically said that in my condition, the dander from the cats was killing me, quite literally. And I got over that eventually, and then in my first year, I got my first pneumonia. And then in the second year, I got my second pneumonia. Then my third year, I had another pneumonia. And I've basically had a minimum of one pneumonia a year my entire life. And I've been with that, and, a whole lot of other instances. I've been living between the worlds, or life and death, my entire being. And I'm not, telling you guys this that I want you to feel sorry for me or anything, because I wouldn't change it. It's who I am. But this is my natural pathway. And I used to, before I even really knew what being a shaman was in my teenage years, especially once I started, with hallucinogenics and stuff like that in my experimentating days, but I always looked to the core, if that makes any sense, when I tripped. I would become like, kind of the old trope of the tripping philosopher, but people around me would comment about, dude, you're too fucking deep, but there was even an experience where I tripped one time and was talking to the wind. And when I was talking to the wind, another person that was there with me, I almost name dropped him. I'm glad I caught that. This was at the site, unbeknownst to me, where some animals had been ritualistically sacrificed. We'll just, put it that way. And I don't know what the intention was for the people who did it or anything about it, the situation. All I know is that they basically left a bunch of dead animals around. So this person tells me later that when he approached me as I talked to the wind, that I was 5 feet basically from a dead deer carcass. And I never saw it. I never saw it. I mean, the trees and the wind speak, you know, anyway, but the hallucinatory or dreaming language is not what you think. Or at least it's not what most people think. Let me put it that way, because Sigmund Freud, famously uh, was heavy into dream psychology. And then Carl Jung actually came behind him, to correct a lot of the things, like a snake isn't always necessarily going to be your feelings about a penis, right? Sometimes a snake is just a snake. But, it's important to understand that, because almost everything that you're going to witness hallucinatory wise when you're taking hallucinogens is going to be in that language. It's going to be in the dreaming language. And so it's the same thing for schizophrenics or anybody that hallucinates naturally, which I do, but it's the dream language. It's metaphors, it's symbols, it's representations. Like I did a dream analyst for a dude when I was locked up one time, and he had a dream that he stabbed his bunkmate in the eye with a pencil. And he said, that it really bugged him because he actually really liked the guy. And, he didn't want to hurt him or anything, but he had this dream about stabbing him in the eye with a pencil. And, it was freaking him out. So he came to me knowing that, I was heavy into dreams and stuff. And he said, asked me about it, and I told him it's actually pretty simple. The friend in the dream represents himself, because he sees something about himself in that other person that he doesn't like about himself necessarily. And so subconsciously he wants to stab that part of him away, if that makes sense. So using a pencil in the dream could be a good indicator that, maybe you should write, So everybody needs a release from the stress in the world, because stress will eat you the fuck up. So, maybe writing about it is a good idea. But I'm getting off topic. When I was experimenting with things like LSD, mushrooms, and the robo trips, but I didn't understand what shamanism was. I had, a sort of calling to it, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't really have anybody to guide me, and I didn't really look at that time. I was just too busy trying to get high. And, of course, in retrospect, in that particular experience, I was looking for the wrong thing, obviously. So when around the year 99, 2000 was when I really started studying dream psychology a lot heavier. And I started to learn about Wicca and more pagan centric type of religions and philosophies. And, there's was a lot of stuff I liked about it, but nothing really. I felt that it was too convoluted with focuses on rituals and how you do a ritual than it was of, just finding that energy, finding that core, and finding the meaning, not to life, not to everything around you, to your very center and the great cycle. And we'll get to that, obviously. But and I learned I learned about the four elements, the four corners, the four seasons. I understood a little bit about the flow of everything, and I recognized that. I've seen that, not knowing what it was, my whole life, but again, I still felt like I was lacking the guidance. And I really, really, really want to name drop the next person in this story, but unfortunately, this story was in prison, and I don't want to expose somebody else for, being in there, because, this guy changed my life completely. I know he probably, I don't know if he really remembers me or not, but, I don't know, but, he showed me some things and lent me reading material about the medicine wheel and the shamanic path. He was I don't know if he was full-blooded or not. He seemed like he was full-blooded to me, but was, I believe, Lakota Sioux. He first lent me a book about the medicine wheel because he heard me talking about the four corners and said, "What do you know about the four corners?" And I said, "Well, there's east, south, west, north, earth, air, fire, water, spring, summer, fall, winter, it's all one cycle." And he just smiled, and later brought me this book that he put together in a composition book about the medicine wheel and the teachings of the medicine wheel. And I don't know, just something about the way that it was put on such a level that even my brain injured head could understand it and make perfect sense, because it wasn't about the rituals, it wasn't about spellcraft, or it wasn't about really divination and all of that fantastical stuff, which some of those things are genuine things, but I don't want to worry about that right now, because the medicine wheel is everything. And it's not, here we get to that, it not being a religious thing, because it's not. Every culture around the world that I know of, just about, has had some version of the medicine wheel, though they call it different things. One of the other popular names for it in the United States, anyway, would be the circle of life. The medicine wheel or at least what the medicine wheel represents, is the great cycle. The cycle that hosts all of these other cycles within that cycle, that host their own cycles within their cycles, like fractal videos, It's just never ending cycles through cycles. And we're part of those cycles and live our own cycles year round, every year. And it brings us to karma because, as you could imagine, if you shit in the road and then you walked around the block in a, perfect, well, I guess square in this situation, still cycle, but, you walk completely back around, what happens? You walk right back into your shit. And it might smell a little bit worse. You might got flies popping all around it and shit, It builds up. And that is one of life's greatest lessons is, the things that you leave behind, because you're going to be back to face it. It's like when we were in jail, there was a saying, you never write on the wall because you will be back to clean it off, and to wash that wall. And it was, true. That's, I know it's superstition, but it seemed to always be true. But at any rate, that is karma. That is karma. And, I know I'll probably get some arguments from people about this, but I think that the way that most people look at karma is completely wrong. It's, number one, a lot of people who believe in karma, and karma is real whether you believe in it or not, but that's I'm not going to force that on you, and we'll get to why here in a second. But a lot of people look at karma as a system of rewards and punishments for whatever you're intending to do, but that's not how it works. And a lot of people, I think, make the mistake of thinking that karma is just some bullshit, but it is real as a force of energy. It's what you give, you get back. That every force of energy that you push out is gonna return to you. It's a magnetism in sorts. I remember reading I believe it was a lesson on the Kabbalah about, how you project energy with your right hand and then pull the energy back in with your left hand, or that at least if you're right dominant. But I'm not going to get into Kabbalah stuff because that's a whole nother that's a whole rabbit hole, I guess. But it is true, the Wicca adage, whatever you want to call it, or at least it's sort of true, I should say that. It's, at the very worst plausible, I guess, because, that everything you do basically returns threefold. And that's not wrong. I don't know that exactly threefold is a real mathematical solution or not, but, it is true. What you put out there, you're going to get back, and it usually does return stronger. So, always be careful what you leave behind in this world, because all the negativity, all the force that you put out in your life, it's coming back, baby. It's coming back. And sometimes people do forceful things with perfectly good intentions and end up getting negative results. That's the thing in this world. It's what you give, you get back. And it's not always your intentions that decides what you're going to get back. If you push out that force, you're going to get force. So, my philosophy as far as anything goes on a metaphysical level and rituals to conjure or manipulate energies toward a specific result, anything dealing with that, I do advise great caution, because no matter what your intentions are, you could unintentionally bring bad karma on yourself. And again, anything forceful, is going to come back. So it's better in life to let things take their natural process rather than try to force it or manipulate it. But again, I don't want to be preachy, but just that's how I see the karma and ritual thing. So let's take a little quick break and take a couple little flower hits, because we in pretty deep right now, yo. We in pretty deep on this. So cheers. Oh, oh, that's Stoney goodness right there. Yeah. Whew. And I want to be clear too that Judaic or Abraham based religions, aren't left out of this either. Again, the great cycles are real, and it's I think our only argument about it is, where did it come from, or what is it ultimately, but I don't think any of us can argue that it's a great cycle, because it does talk in I think it's Ecclesiastes. I don't even remember the exact quote, but it was basically something, about just as the sun rises, the sun sets again and rises again. And that's what this is all about, is the cycles and learning from the cycles. And as far as anything outside of this world, you can believe what you want. I'm agnostic about whether there's a divine being, God or gods or goddesses or Tom Cruise, Billy Kidman, whatever. But flying spaghetti monster, hell, I don't know. But, I don't know what's out there. So I want to look here and learn what I can while I'm still a part of it. Well, I mean, I'm always going to be a part of it, but just not in this form. So basically, the introduction to the medicine wheel is, the first thing you need to know is you've already been introduced the day you were born, at least as far as your conscious mind goes, because, as we learn in physics, energy is never created nor destroyed. It only transfers into different forms. And that's basically what happens physically, I guess, when the human body dies, is our energy in the form of calories rises up out of our body, and typically would be into the soil and feed the soil with calories to birth more life. So the cycle is truly never ending, at least until either time is destroyed by some god, or until the universe collapses in on itself, or maybe the universe really never does begin or end. I don't know about that, but what I do know is that until such a time, it is one never ending cycle. Every day we're going to live our lives until we don't. And, so what we're doing in this world right now within that cycle is the most important thing. It's literally all we have. And, I want people to appreciate that more. And, again, I don't mean to get preachy and shit, but I wish more people would act responsibly towards the way we treat the Mother Earth, because the earth literally gave birth to us all. You know, I think it goes without saying, at least right now, if there is no earth, there is no us. And there is no cycle for this conscious mind. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the same as when you die. And when we love and care about other people and animals and life forms, that we want to have healthy cycles, you know, we should all want to create a sustainable, healthy world to live, you know? It's it's our literal mother, It's our literal mother. But that is where we get our first big lessons about the wheel, because we see it going around. You know, that's what I say about the medicine wheel being a universal thing, because you know what the medicine wheel represents is not something up in the sky, or you know, something that has to be explained through superstition the way that any religion does. The explanation is known because it's observable. We see it every day. We can measure it scientifically. We see the earth orbiting around the sun. We see the earth rotating on its own axis. So, you know, we know how long a year is. We know how long a day is. But when we back to the point, you know, when we observe the earth's cycles, we see the plants and, you know, get further away from the sun and they die out, or they don't. Dying, I think, is the wrong word to use, even though it's technically correct. But, you know, it's more like hibernating, you know. Life dies out and then is born again in the spring. But then we, you know, approach the sun and it's, you know, it's summertime. It's hot. And we head west and we come to the fall. And then things start to die and grow cold and freeze over once again. And we repeat the same process year after year. And we watch our own cycles along with those cycles. We watch the habits of the cattle out in the field. We watch the habits of our own animals in the house. You know, there are lessons to be learned from observing the behavior and patterns of everything around you. I guess that's the biggest lesson, and one of the biggest lessons in the medicine wheel is pay attention. You know, try to pay attention, because when you watch your old behaviors and patterns that keep getting you into trouble over and over and over again, and you might not even realize it's a problem until you stop to look at those cycles. And you know, there's a, oh, what was the name of that song? If you don't know your past, you won't know the future. You know, you don't know the past, don't know the future. Don't say. That is life, and we are all interconnected. I know that, you know, that interconnected thing is, if you want to explain that in physics, you know, you have to really start getting into like string theory and subatomic particles and shit. A lot of stuff that I really don't understand that well. But to be perfectly honest, full disclosure and shit, you know. But basically, a photon can be in multiple parts of the universe at the same time, and possibly in other universes at the same time. And you know, the implications of it are crazy, but I do truly believe that we are all interconnected. We are the same energy. We are made up of the same things. All human beings came from the same common ancestor deep in Africa, and before that came from the same primates, and before that came from the same rodents during the Triassic, and before that came from the same sea creatures that formed legs and crawled out on the swamplands and shit, and before that came from the same microbes and coral reef and shit from the bottom of the ocean, and before that came from the same carbon that makes up everything in the universe, so in many ways, we are literally all one. So basically, I want to establish we all walk the same cycles. Our paths are much different, but we're all walking in circles. We're all walking in the same type of circle. Don't be afraid to look back, but more importantly, don't be afraid to step forward, baby. Step forward and don't be afraid to grow like the earth around you, to grow like your children, Never be afraid to grow. It doesn't matter how big you are, how old you are, you can always grow as a person, philosophically and culturally and spiritually, or religiously if you're a religious person. And I want to be clear about that too, is that I am accepting of almost every religion. We can agree to disagree on the stuff that we don't know. I'm okay with that, which is why I so embraced the sort of agnostic or secular view of things, because I don't know what is or isn't out there. The same way that I look at ghosts and paranormal phenomenon, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the answer is. And sometimes it's okay to not know things. We, for some reason, have this tendency sometimes to berate each other for not knowing something that, them and maybe their whole group of friends knew, but then they meet somebody that didn't know, and, want to belittle them for not knowing it. And stop that, please, because you can't know about something that you've never been taught. It's plain and simple. We've got people my age and even older that have never learned to read, and it's not their fault because they were never taught. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions, because questions are important. And questions, you could argue that questions are the foundation of philosophy and having an analytical, healthy mind. And that's coming from a man with brain damage. But I hope that I was able to explain all of that better than I think I did. I know I'm a Stoney Shaman, baby, so I'm gonna ramble. But I basically just today I wanted to set things up just to explain to you where I'm coming from and what I see my role, and why I want to do these videos the way that we're gonna start doing them after this video, because everybody has their own path, their own role in this world, and I'm not gonna be a preacher. I'm not gonna be whatever you want to call it, the high priestess, whatever. That's not me. I'm a counselor. So I want to talk about things in the world. I want to talk about maybe dreams. I've thought before about tackling some more metaphysical type of subjects like astral projection and things like that, but I don't even want to do that. So I think for the next video, I want to talk about drug addiction. I want to talk about my experience with meth, and I want to talk about how I got clean, what kept me clean, and the true struggle that it really is, because we have a tendency, or a lot of people have a tendency to treat drug addicts as puns of jokes. Addiction is a really serious fucking thing that destroys lives, and it's important to understand the different levels of addiction and how, yes, addiction can make a person something that they're totally not. But we'll save that for the episode, and I want to do another episode, one that I'm really nervous about doing because it's going to be a long, awkward fucking conversation. But I want to talk about the state of racism and systemic injustice in the United States. I know it's an issue that has been beat to death by everybody, and for some reason it's a divisive issue, but that's more reason that we need to talk about it, because I've got a lot of things to say on this subject, and I know I'm probably going to sound like a trope white boy sitting here saying this shit, but we have to look at things in this world realistically and philosophically and understand where it comes from, why it is, and how we can correct things, And that's a conversation that I think is worth having, because this planet is your planet. This planet is my planet. This planet is their planet. This planet is their planet. This is all of our homes, and we've got to live together. And continuing to let these pre-programmed behaviors and feelings of xenophobia and racism, that stuff is pre-programmed, and we have to fucking unlearn it. You know what I'm saying? We have to unlearn it. But I'll save more of that for that episode too. So, and I've had a couple more ideas floating around in my head too, but I'm gonna leave them bouncing around for now, just because I'll tackle these couple things at a time. Should be doing things one at a time, but in this instance we're gonna do it a couple at a time, or not like how we're gonna film it, but we're gonna do one then the other, then go forward, hopefully. And I'm totally up to suggestions too. I'm totally open to suggestions. If you've got an idea, leave it down in the comment section below and I'll take a look at it. Maybe we can do a completely different series than this one right now and just call it the Stoney Fat Guy's Corner. I don't know. Talk about mom butts and shit. I like mom butts, yeah. Mom butts are gravy. And then for Timmy G's Stuff and Stuff this month, we're going to have the Christmas box from Don't Eat the Gum. We're going to have Elevated Stash. We're going to have Hippie Butler. And a couple surprises too. We're going to have a little something extra from Hippie Butler. And we're going to have a little something extra coming from the Horny Stoner too. So we're going to have at least 5 unboxings on this channel this month. So I got you, yo. I got your unboxing fix and stuff. And so let's close up with a nice little bong rip. Thank you all once again for tuning in. If you like this, comment, subscribe, And be ready, because the next ones we're going to get serious. Cheers.